What's up guys, I'm Jozzie Football and welcome to my predictions for game week 29. Let's get straight into it. Now we'll start off with Man City versus Liverpool. I believe this will be a very close game. These games are always pretty eventful. Liverpool have been off form quite a bit this season, but they always seem to turn up against Man City and Man United and teams that they've got like a direct rivalry with. So I think despite Liverpool's shaky form, they'll be all right and they will prove a challenge. Although I do think Man City may just edge it just because they have a bit more to actually fight for. I mean, they're in a title race with Arsenal, and if they want to keep pushing Arsenal to the limits, they're going to have to win this game. I think this will be one of City's most important games all season. I mean, if Arsenal somehow do drop points this week and Man City get points against Liverpool, that's going to be so important for the title race. But, you know, Liverpool can frustrate Man City and can frustrate Pep. We know Pep kind of overthinks a lot of the time. You know, it could be interesting. We know Haaland may not be actually available. There are rumours of an injury, and we know Foden's out as well, but he hasn't played that much this season. It seems Pep's kind of preferred Jack Grealish and Mahrez, or I'm actually unsure what the wingers they are, but Foden's not been used that much this season for sure. Liverpool have their fair share of injuries too. Thiago, Diaz, Gomez, Naby Keita as well, I believe got injured over the international break. And then Darwin Núñez is a bit 50-50. I think that there's been some rumours that he's not quite right, so he might not play. There's some good players out. I mean, Thiago he's the best midfielder that Liverpool have got. That's kind of their weakest position. I mean, Henderson he's all right. He's a great captain, but I don't think his running stats are not quite up to the others. But yeah, they'll definitely miss Thiago and that kind of creativity that they get from midfield. Bietic, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure, but he's been quite good this season for Liverpool. Definitely one of their breakout stars, and he is out as well. So there's quite a lot of talent missing from this one. So it could be an interesting game. I believe City may play Alvarez. That could be interesting. I mean, he's a World Cup winner, so you know he's a good player. Probably will long term be at City for a lot longer than Haaland will. I mean, I believe Haaland will only be at City for a couple of years at max, 2 or 3, but Alvarez kind of seems like a long-term signing, so it'd be good to see him maybe burst onto the scene in a way, because he's not really done much in a City shirt yet. But I mean, that's normal for Pep signings. They kind of take a season to sort of bed in. Same with Calvin Phillips. I think he'll play a lot more next season. But yeah, my prediction for this one is Manchester City 3, Liverpool 2. I think it'll be a massively close game. I think it'll be a lot of goals, a lot of attacking. I mean, there's been 28 goals in the last 7 games between these two. It's been absolutely insane every time these two play, and I'm super looking forward to this game. Bournemouth versus Fulham. This is an interesting one because both teams are in kind of a different kind of a bad form. I mean, Bournemouth have been absolutely awful all season. In my opinion, they're one of the 2 teams who are definitely going down, the other being Southampton. I just think Southampton and Bournemouth are probably the worst teams in the division. But Fulham have lost their last 3 games in all competitions. So I think this will be an interesting game. I mean, Mitrovic and Willian are banned. Marco Silva will be on the touchline, I believe. So there's not a management issue for this game. But I do think Bournemouth have a bit more to fight for with them being in relegation. Fulham seem to kind of just... they'll get mid-table for sure. They've not got a lot more to do. They'll be on the beach soon. I think it'll be 1-1. Next up is Nottingham Forest versus Wolves. Now, both teams are in awful form. Forest haven't won in 6, and Wolves have only won 1 in 6. And they're both... This is quite interesting because both are quite different on the where they're lacking. Wolves are really struggling to actually score goals, whereas Forest are conceding a lot. I mean, Forest have conceded 11 in the last 4. I mean, that is a lot. So kind of you've got a team who can't score and you've got a team who concede a lot. It seems like it'd just be an absolute like crazy game where one team can't put it in but the other are just open, and it seems like it'll be a proper relegation dogfight. I do think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be 1-1. Palace versus Leicester. Now this is an interesting one because we'll start with Palace. I mean, it's Roy Hodgson is back in the Premier League at the age of 75. I mean, this guy, seriously, man, I can't believe he's still managing. This will be his 24th managerial job. And last time he was relegated with Watford. And I just remember, I think it was the last game of the season, he played Palace. And Watford were relegated, and obviously that's heartbreaking for Watford fans. But I remember Roy was just smiling with all the Palace fans and saluting all the Palace fans and shaking hands and laughing and joking with all the Palace players. And it's just, I thought, if I was a Watford fan, I'd have been fuming with that. I mean, the guy just came in, saw them relegated, and then just kind of didn't give a shit, which is kind of weird. I thought that Watford getting through 3 managers in that season was insane anyway. I mean, their turnover is insane. But I really thought that would be Hodgson's last job. And it looked like it would be until this season. It's a really bizarre appointment. They made a really good appointment with Vieira. It looked to be, you know, a step towards the future for that club. Palace as a board mentioned that they were kind of trying to move towards sort of a younger, new kind of vision, only to sack off this new vision and go running back to Hodgson. I see why they've done it. I mean, he's a familiar face to a lot of the players. It'll be the kind of appointment where they bring in Roy, and Roy will be like, all right, guys, come on, we can do this. Let's just get over the line. Let's secure another season in the Prem. And then, you know, they'll get a new manager in, probably someone more towards the Vieira kind of upcoming manager. I mean, I can imagine him going in for like a Gerrard. But I mean, I'm not sure what Palace will do with the management. But I do see why they brought in Roy, but I also think it's kind of a backward step. But Palace have been weird this season. The 12th, which is it's not too bad. They are at the top of this sort of relegation league. Everything from 12th to 20th is kind of its own little mini league to see who's going to get relegated, and Palace are at the top of that. But I do see why Vieira was sacked. They haven't won a single game this year. I think it is important to actually say in that time they've played Arsenal, Brighton, Man City, Villa, Liverpool, Brentford, Man United. They played twice, where they got a draw, I believe, at one of them. Newcastle, I think they drew that game. They've played Chelsea, they've played Spurs. So they've played a lot of teams who are better than them on paper. So Vieira had a really, really rough run-in. So I think it is kind of harsh. I think if he wouldn't have won any of those games, but they'd have been spaced out maybe across, you know, the whole season. Maybe if he'd played 4 of them games in September, and then some of them in May or whatever, and some of his fixtures had been different, then maybe it'd still be in a job. But I mean, if you're looking at it from a points point of view, they haven't won a single game this year, which is insane. Their last win came on the 31st against Bournemouth, I think. So it's been a long time. Leicester, let's get into Leicester now, because we talked about Palace for a bit. Leicester, it's kind of... Leicester produced one of the best miracles in English football ever. when they won the league in 2015-16. That was an insane achievement. And more recently, they won the FA Cup under Brendan Rodgers in 2021. So it's been quite a massive fall off for Leicester. I'm quite surprised to see them down there, similar to West Ham in that kind of way. But I mean, the form is just abysmal. They've been absolutely awful. They've not won in the last 6 games in all competitions, including games against Southampton and Blackburn. And I mean, that is just, it's awful. I can't see how Rodgers is still in a job. Leicester fans absolutely detest the guy. Every time I see Leicester on social media, the fans are just like, Rodgers out. I honestly don't think the guy will be at the club no matter if he keeps them up. He will go, whether by sacking or walking. I don't think he'll stay. And if they go down, 100% no. I think relegation would be disastrous for Leicester. They've established themselves so well in the Premier League. I mean, they've won it in the last decade. And if they were relegated, that would be massive. It would be insane. So it's kind of a weird one with Leicester. They're a team I would like to stay in the Prem. I'm a Leeds fan, but obviously if it came down to it and it was Leeds or Leicester, I'd choose Leeds to stay up every time. But from a neutral point of view, I think Leicester are a good team to have in the division. So it'll be an interesting one, this game. 2 relegation teams at it. I think it'll be 0-0, to be honest. Hodgson will just sit back, but I can't really see anything exciting happening. It just has 0-0 written all over it. Next is Arsenal versus Leeds. Now, I'm a Leeds fan, so obviously I want Leeds to win, but realistically it's never going to happen. We did give Arsenal a good go last time. I think we're probably one of the better teams to actually have played Arsenal in terms of performance on the day. We really did deserve to win that last game against them. We had a missed penalty and we had a lot of chances in the second half. But, you know, that was a long time ago in terms of like the way the season has gone, and Arsenal are just getting better. In my opinion, Arsenal have, you know, they've done it. I think I would put money on them at this point to win the Premier League, and maybe that'll come back to bite me. Maybe, you know, in a few weeks when City race past them and Arsenal lose 6 games on a bounce, you know, and maybe I'll look like a mug, but honestly I can't see that happening. I honestly think something really special is happening at Arsenal. It feels like destiny, to be honest, that Arsenal are going to win it. Every single one of the players is just in form, and it seems, I mean, they lost Jesus, and Nketiah managed to step up and was incredible for the period that he played. Trossard, what a signing that is. I mean, the guy has been playing false 9, so, you know, if Jesus is not fully fit, Trossard could just come into that sort of false 9 role and do a job. I mean, Saka, to me, Saka's just been the best, possibly the best player this season in the Premier League, if you discount maybe Haaland. I think Haaland and Saka probably tied for player of the season at this point for me. I mean, Saka and Martinelli too. A lot of people have been going on about Rashford being incredible all season, and rightly so. Rashford has been brilliant, but I think you can't ignore Martinelli. The stats are similar between the two. Martinelli's always been one of the players people have laughed at in a way, being like, oh, he'll never really make it. He'll be like another Reece Nelson, who is actually performing quite well again, but he kind of just faded into the background a bit. And people kind of thought that with Martinelli too. People who weren't Arsenal fans, that is. But Arsenal fans have absolutely always backed the guy, and this season he's been insane. He's been brilliant. But yeah, there has been a few weird results with Arsenal. They had the Villa and Bournemouth games where they were really, really, really resilient, and they did really well to fight back and get results. Definitely champions performances in those two, and more recently they've smashed Everton and Fulham. They've won every single match since they lost to City. So, they suffered that setback and immediately have come back and just absolutely started getting these results, and not dropping off, because a lot of people thought a lot of people thought that City would catch them up and Arsenal would drop off, but they're just not doing it, and I honestly think they will win the league. I'll talk a bit about Leeds. They've been a lot better under Javi Gracia than we were under Jesse Marsh. We're a lot more pragmatic. Now, when you think of Leeds in the Premier League, you're thinking of that kind of all relentless pressing that we did under Marsh and Bielsa, where we were top of the sprinting charts, and that's kind of going to take a back seat. What you're going to see from Leeds in this game is they're going to sit off, they're going to soak pressure, and then they're going to hit on the counter-attack and hopefully nick a goal. It's what Everton did in their game where they beat Arsenal. They took a lot of set pieces, got the ball to Decore, and pushed through midfield on the break. But I don't think Leeds have the set piece ability to sort of nick a goal and then defend it for 90 minutes. I don't think that's something that, we're a squad that are capable of that. And I think we are going to be beaten. I don't think it'll be a ridiculous scoreline. I think it'll be Arsenal 3, Leeds 1. But ultimately Arsenal are just so quality at the minute, and it's just going to be too much for Leeds to handle. Brighton versus Brentford. Now this is an exciting one, because both of those teams have been insane. I would describe Brighton and Brentford as being perfectly run clubs. Now the scouting network for both of those clubs is just incredible. I mean, Brighton come up with a wonder kid every season that nobody else has ever heard of. I mean, who'd heard of Caicedo or Mitoma? No one, realistically. And they just burst onto the scene. It's like they click their fingers and they've got one. And Brentford do a similar job. They're very wise with their transfer decisions, who they bring in, and both teams are just really well run. And Brentford did really well this season to avoid the kind of second season syndrome, which is a thing. Obviously, it got Sheffield United, it nearly got Leeds last season, but Brentford have, honestly, they just look like a mid-table club, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. I would love to be in the situation that Brighton and Brentford are in, mid-table to pushing for that Europe position, whether that be Conference League or Europa League. I mean, Brighton have a real chance to be in top 4. I mean, both teams are on 42 points, and Brighton have 2 games in hand. They could end up, if they win their 2 games, and then if they win the 3rd game, which they've got in hand over Tottenham, they could be 4th. They could be in the Champions League place, which is insane for a club like Brighton. But yeah, both these teams are incredible. They both had brilliant seasons. I could see it going either way, but I'm going to go Brighton 2, Brentford 1. But I could be surprised. Honestly, I think either of these teams could win. It should be a really good game, I think. Chelsea versus Villa. Now, this is an interesting one because Chelsea have been a weird one this season. They had a rough start with Thomas Tuchel, and I think there was a lot of off-the-pitch stuff going on at Chelsea. And obviously they've done this sort of rebuild mid-season rather than at the start of the season. And having a sort of pre-season with Potter and his group of players. Instead, they've brought in a lot of players over in January and just expected them all to just glue together, and that just doesn't happen in football. They are improving, but Potter just needs time. He needs He needs a full pre-season. He needs to trim the squad down, and get a lot of. I think they need to just sort of play games and have a sort of a consistent run. Potter doesn't know his best 11, and I think that's a big problem. You know, they've had a lot of injuries too. They've got a lot of deadwood at the club that they will be wanting to move on in the summer. I think we'll see a different Chelsea next season. Honestly, Potter is a really good manager. The way some Chelsea fans go on about him as if, you know, he's the worst guy ever, he is a good manager. And you will reap the rewards. Look at what Arsenal are doing right now, and Chelsea have more potential than Arsenal. I believe Arsenal have a better manager in Arteta and a better squad in terms of what they've built, but Potter is building something. There's a lot of talk about the owner, Todd Bowley, signing players who he wants to sign, but honestly, I think they're all Potter signings, and I think as soon as Potter gets those players gelling together, you've got a title chasing team. I think next season you're going to be seeing Arsenal, Man United, City. I think Liverpool might strengthen. So you could have like 5 or 6 teams who are going for it, and next season I think is going to be a really good season. But I don't think Chelsea are there just yet. I think they need that pre-season. If I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be wanting the season to end because it's not been a good season. I think their only hope now is to win the Champions League, which is a massive ask. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to have a Europe-less season next season. And I think that's the best thing, to be honest, to do an Arsenal, sit back, rebuild, and come back stronger. I don't think it'll take too long. They've done all the rebuilding in terms of getting the players in. They just need the players to gel and the manager to get his tactics in properly. Now into the actual game, Villa have been so much better under Unai Emery than they have been under Gerrard and before that Dean Smith. They're unbeaten in the last 4. I really do think Villa are a good team, and the recent form has been really good. Both teams on 38 points, so this game is kind of a good one for both of them to sort of put a gap between the other. I believe it'll be Villa who do come out on top. It'll be a close game. It could go either way, but I'm going to back Villa. I think it's 2-1 to Villa. West Ham versus Southampton. I've not got much to say about this one, to be honest. I think it'll be West Ham 2, Southampton 0. Both teams start in the relegation zone, and to be honest, I think Southampton are the worst team in the league, and I think they're nailed on down. Whether that be 20th or 19th, I don't know, but I think they're nailed on to go down. I think Bournemouth and Southampton are the two definitely going down. I think that 18th place spot is up for grabs. It could honestly be anyone at this moment in time. But I think West Ham have a lot more quality than Southampton. I think they'll get the job done. Moyes is it's kind of been a weird season. I don't think they'll sack Moyes. I don't think they should sack Moyes. I think they should give him another season. I think they should sell Declan Rice and then invest a lot of money that they get from him into building, you know, a better squad and hopefully for them next season having a much better season. Because I think Moyes is a good manager. He's brought a lot of quality to this West Ham team. And it's been a weird one. It's similar to the Leicester scenario. It's kind of just, you look at where they are in the table and you're like, well, why? They've got a really good squad, but yeah, it's been a weird one. I think West Ham will win this one, so yeah, 2-0. Newcastle versus Manchester United. Now, I've got to say, I love what Newcastle are doing. I think they've made really wise signings. I mean, there's been so many good signings. Newcastle, I mean, Trippier, Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, he's been incredible in that midfield. But I do think Man United will win this one. They're so much better under Ten Hag than they were. I think Ten Hag's definitely been the best manager they've had since Alex Ferguson. They just look like a different beast. Now, Rashford could be out. There's been rumours, but honestly, I wouldn't believe it. I think he'll turn up and I think he'll play. I just don't think he wanted to go to England camp, and I don't blame him. Southgate never plays him. He's not appreciated there. He's risked injury before going to England games, and I honestly think he probably just wanted a bit of a break before coming back to Man United. So I wouldn't worry about that. I do think Rashford will play, and I think it'll be a Man United win. They've been pretty good, and Newcastle have been pretty inconsistent recently. They have won the last two, but they lost the two before that, and they've had kind of a weird sort of inconsistent sort of run of games since the World Cup break. So yeah, Newcastle 1, Manchester United 3. Everton versus Spurs, the last fixture on the list. Conte leaving, I believe, will just energise the squad, and I believe Spurs are just going to absolutely hammer Everton, to be honest. You know, I've just got a feeling that Conte leaving will have made everybody be like, whoa, finally he's gone. Let's play some football. And I can see it being a big game. I think it'll be 4-1 to Spurs, to be honest. I think they're focusing on top 4 now. Or else they're not going to have an appealing sort of situation for whoever comes in next as the manager. It's worth noting, though, that Everton are unbeaten in the last 3, but I honestly think Spurs will win this one. And I think they'll win it by quite a bit. So yeah, 4-1 for that one. And that has been everything, guys. This has been my in-depth predictions. This is my first video on the channel, so I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and a comment with your predictions and your thoughts towards these games and these teams. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. It'd be really helpful for me, and I'd really appreciate it. Like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.